Frozen, beaten, and without clothes, she crawled to his cabin and he let her live like a queen. She pressed herself to the ground, crawling inch by inch through the deep snow, each movement exhausting her more than the last. Her hands and knees were raw and numb from contact with the ice, and her teeth chattered uncontrollably. The sky above was a pale gray, and everything around her was a blur of white, making it almost impossible to tell where the snow ended and the clouds began. Anna's mind was a whirlwind of fear and desperation. She had been running for what felt like hours, though in reality it was probably only half that. Every step she had taken before this moment had led her to one conclusion: she could not stop. She could not let them find her. She could not go back. Memories of the pain and fear she had endured flooded her mind, but instead of breaking her, they pushed her forward. She forced herself to keep crawling, even as her muscles screamed in protest. She had no choice. Her jacket, soaked in melted snow and sweat, offered little warmth, and the thin shoes on her feet were frozen solid. Her fingers and toes had gone numb long ago. Each movement sent sharp pains up her legs and arms, but the thought of stopping was far worse. Stopping meant being caught. Stopping meant returning to a life she had fought so hard to escape, and she could never go back. Anna's body trembled with exhaustion, but she refused to give in. She thought about warmth, something as simple as a fire, and how it might feel to rest her aching body on something soft instead of the harsh snow. That thought alone gave her the strength to drag herself forward. Every inch she moved was a small victory, a proof that she was still alive and still fighting. The forest ahead loomed as a dark, shadowy line against the white of the snow. Anna's eyes, barely able to focus through the freezing wind, spotted it like a lifeline. She knew that beyond those trees, there might be safety. Perhaps someone lived there, someone who could help. Perhaps there was a place where she could finally escape the endless fear that had followed her for months. She did not know who or what awaited her, but anything was better than being alone in this frozen wasteland. Her body begged her to rest. Her arms shook violently as she tried to pull herself forward, and her legs felt like they were made of lead. Her breath came in short, painful gasps, forming clouds that vanished into the cold air. At one point, she thought she might collapse, but some stubborn spark of hope refused to let her. She pictured herself reaching a warm cabin, a fire crackling in the hearth, soft blankets waiting for her. That image became a kind of fuel, and she clung to it desperately. Hours must have passed. Anna had lost all sense of time. The snow had begun to fall harder, tiny flakes stinging her face as if to remind her how fragile she was. She struggled to lift her head, her hair matted with ice and sweat, but even that small motion felt monumental. Her lips were chapped, her cheeks red and raw from the cold. Every joint in her body ached, yet still she crawled. The thought of anyone finding her, the fear of what might happen if she was discovered, drove her onward. Her mind, however, was not entirely focused on fear. There were fragments of memory that made her heart ache in a different way. She thought of warmth, not just from clothes or fire, but from kindness, from safety. She remembered the few times in her life when someone had smiled at her without judgment, had extended a hand without asking for anything in return. Those memories felt distant now, almost like they belonged to another person entirely. And yet they were enough to remind her that goodness still existed in the world, even if she had not seen it for so long. Anna's eyes scanned the horizon, desperate for any sign of life. A tree, a path, even a faint plume of smoke would be enough to give her hope. And then, almost as if the universe had heard her silent plea, she saw it. A small shape in the distance, partially hidden by snow-laden branches. At first, she wasn't sure what it was, but as she squinted, she realized it was a cabin. Its roof was dark against the white and smoke curled gently from the chimney. A sense of relief washed over her, though it was tinged with disbelief. Could she truly be saved? Could this small building, so simple and unassuming, offer her the safety she had been searching for? With renewed determination, Anna pushed herself harder. The snow was deep now, making each movement a battle. Her knees sank into the drifts, her arms scraped over icy patches, but still, she did not stop. The cabin grew slightly larger in her vision with every painful inch she moved, and her heart began to beat faster, not with fear but with hope. For the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to imagine warmth, safety, and perhaps even kindness. Finally, she reached the edge of the forest, the trees providing a small shield against the biting wind. She could see the cabin clearly now, its wooden walls sturdy and inviting in contrast to the harsh wilderness around it. Anna's body was trembling uncontrollably, not just from the cold but from exhaustion and relief. She dragged herself through the last few feet of snow, her fingers frozen, her clothes wet and heavy, until she reached the cabin's door. She knocked weakly at first, then louder when there was no answer. Her voice, hoarse and barely audible, called out, "Please, someone." She had no idea who might be inside or whether they would help, but she had no other choice. Collapsing against the door, she could feel her energy fading fast. The cold was relentless, and if she did not find shelter soon, she knew she would not survive the night. Inside the cabin, Thomas, the man who lived alone in the woods, heard the faint knocking. At first he hesitated. He was not used to visitors, especially in the middle of a harsh winter night. But something about the sound, the desperation, the weakness, made him leave his chair by the fireplace and open the door. What he saw made him catch his breath. A young woman, almost unrecognizable beneath layers of snow and ice, was slumped against his door. Her hair was tangled and frozen in places, her clothes soaked and clinging to her shivering body. Bruises and scratches marred her skin, and her lips were blue from the cold. She was barely conscious, yet she raised her head just enough to meet his gaze. Without thinking, Thomas pulled her inside, shutting the door against the storm. He wrapped her in a thick blanket and helped her to a chair near the fire. The warmth hit her like a wave, and she gasped, shivering violently as her body struggled to regain heat. Thomas poured her a cup of hot tea, holding it to her lips so she could sip slowly. Her hands shook uncontrollably as they grasped the warm cup, but she managed a few small sips, the heat spreading through her chest like a promise of life. For a long time, neither spoke. Anna's eyes closed as she tried to gather strength, and Thomas simply sat nearby, making sure she was safe. He had no idea what her story was, only that she was in desperate need of help. He would ask questions later. Right now, she needed warmth, comfort, and care. Slowly, the shivering began to subside, and Anna's body relaxed slightly in the safety of the cabin. For the first time in what felt like months, she allowed herself to breathe without fear. Hours passed, and outside the storm raged on. Inside, the cabin became a small island of warmth and safety. Anna leaned back in the chair, the blanket pulled tightly around her, and felt a fragile spark of hope take root in her heart. She had escaped the immediate danger, and though her journey was far from over, she had survived the first, most critical step. And for now, that was enough. Anna woke to the soft crackling of the fire. Her body felt heavy and sore, but for the first time in days, she felt a small sense of safety. The blanket Thomas had wrapped around her was warm and comforting, and for the first few minutes, she simply lay there, staring at the wooden ceiling, letting the warmth sink into her frozen limbs. Thomas was already moving quietly around the cabin, preparing breakfast. He had set out a pot of hot water on the stove and was gently frying some eggs. The smell of food made Anna's stomach growl, though she hesitated to reach for it. She felt unsure of herself, unused to being taken care of, and the thought of eating in front of someone was strange. But the hunger was too strong to ignore. "Good morning," Thomas said softly, noticing her eyes open. His voice was calm and kind without any hint of judgment. "I made some food. You should try to eat a little." Anna nodded quietly, managing a weak smile. The simplest things, like being offered breakfast without question, felt almost magical. She took a seat at the small wooden table, and Thomas placed a plate of warm food in front of her. The steam rose gently, warming the cold air in the cabin, and she took a small bite. It was bland, but it was enough to make her feel a bit more alive. As she ate, Thomas watched her carefully, making sure she was safe and comfortable. He did not rush her or ask too many questions. He simply let her eat, letting her adjust to the small comforts of being inside a warm place. Anna felt gratitude mixed with embarrassment. She had never been treated with such care. Most people in her past had ignored her pain or made her feel smaller because of it. But Thomas treated her as a human being, not as a problem or a burden. After breakfast, Anna slowly moved to the small armchair by the fire. Her body ached from crawling through the snow and from the bruises on her arms and legs. Thomas noticed and handed her another blanket. She accepted it, wrapping herself tightly and feeling the tension in her muscles slowly ease. "Do you want to take a bath?" Thomas asked gently. "It might help with the soreness, and I have warm water ready." Anna hesitated. She was embarrassed, feeling vulnerable after everything she had endured. But something in Thomas's calm and gentle voice made her trust him. She nodded slowly, and he helped her prepare a small basin of warm water. The heat was almost too much at first, but it soothed her aching muscles. She carefully washed herself, feeling a strange combination of relief and shame. For so long, she had not had the chance to care for herself. Now, for the first time in months, she could. When she finished, Thomas handed her a dry towel and a clean set of clothes. They were simple and modest, but to Anna they felt like a luxury. She dressed slowly, feeling the warmth return to her body. As she looked at herself in the small mirror on the wall, she barely recognized the girl staring back. Her face was pale and bruised, but her eyes held something new, a spark of life and hope. Over the next few days, Thomas helped Anna settle into the cabin. He did not force her to talk about her past, but he provided a safe space where she could rest and recover. Anna began to feel a small sense of normalcy again. She helped with small chores, like fetching water from the well and tending to the fire. These tasks were simple, but they gave her a sense of control over her life, a feeling she had not experienced in a long time. One evening, as the snow fell quietly outside, Anna finally spoke about her past. She told Thomas in small, halting sentences about the fear and pain she had endured. She did not go into every detail, only enough for him to understand that she had suffered greatly and needed a safe place to heal. Thomas listened quietly, never interrupting or judging. He only nodded and offered gentle words of encouragement. "You are safe here," he said softly. "Nothing from the past can hurt you here. You are allowed to rest and recover." Anna felt tears prick at her eyes. No one had ever said that to her before. Most people had either blamed her for her misfortune or ignored it entirely. Thomas's words felt like a shield around her, protecting her from the harshness of the world outside. She leaned back in the chair, letting herself cry quietly for the first time in months. As the days passed, Anna's strength returned slowly. Her bruises faded, her muscles grew stronger, and her mind became clearer. She began to take small walks outside, bundled in warm clothes Thomas had provided. The forest around the cabin, once a place of fear and danger, now felt peaceful. The snow sparkled in the sunlight, and the quiet of the woods brought a strange kind of calm. Thomas taught her how to chop wood safely, how to store firewood for the coming winter, and how to cook simple meals over the stove. Anna listened carefully, absorbing every lesson. She had spent so much of her life running from danger that she had never learned these basic skills. Now, they became symbols of her independence and growing confidence. Despite the calm, Anna sometimes felt waves of fear and sadness. Memories of her past would creep in unexpectedly, making her heart race and her hands shake. Thomas noticed these moments and would simply sit quietly with her, offering silent support. He never pushed her to speak, never asked for explanations, and never made her feel small. This patience helped Anna slowly rebuild her sense of trust in people. One particularly cold evening, Anna sat by the window watching the snow fall in thick flakes. She held a cup of hot tea in her hands, feeling the warmth seep into her fingers. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the crawling through snow, the fear, the pain, and she realized something remarkable. She had survived. She had made it through the worst moments of her life, and now she had a chance to heal. Thomas joined her by the window, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you think," he said quietly. "Every step you've taken has brought you here, and now you can start building the life you want." Anna nodded slowly, feeling a mixture of gratitude and determination. She had been broken before, but she was no longer the same person. The kindness Thomas had shown her, the safety he had provided, and the patience he had given had begun to mend the pieces of her heart. She realized that she could survive anything as long as she had hope and the chance to start anew. In the following weeks, Anna's routine began to take shape. She woke early, helped with the cabin chores, and spent time learning from Thomas. They would sometimes sit together in silence, listening to the wind in the trees or the crackling fire. The quiet moments were just as important as the practical lessons. They taught Anna that peace was possible, that life could be simple and beautiful even after suffering. Slowly, Anna began to smile more. She laughed softly at small mistakes she made while learning new skills, like dropping a log while chopping wood or spilling flour while baking. Each laugh, small as it was, felt like a victory. She was reclaiming parts of herself that she had thought were lost forever. Evenings became her favorite time of day. She would sit by the fire, sipping tea and watching the snow fall outside. She felt safe, warm, and for the first time in a long time she felt like she belonged somewhere. The cabin, which had once been just a small building in the forest, had become a sanctuary, a place where she could heal, grow, and eventually live without fear. As part 2 of her journey drew to a close, Anna realized something profound. She had not only survived the physical dangers of the snow and the wilderness, she had survived the emotional and mental scars of her past. She had found a place where she could be herself without fear, a place where she was valued and protected. And though her journey was far from over, she knew that with patience, courage, and kindness, she could finally begin to build a new life. A life full of hope, strength, and quiet happiness. Anna woke to the soft glow of morning sunlight streaming through the small window of the cabin. The snow outside glistened like tiny diamonds, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of calm instead of fear. Her body had regained strength, her bruises were fading, and the ache in her muscles was now a reminder of effort rather than suffering. She stretched slowly, savoring the warmth of the blankets Thomas had provided and the comforting scent of the fire that still burned softly in the hearth. The cabin had become a small world of its own. Anna had begun to understand the rhythms of life there, the sound of the wind through the trees, the subtle crackle of the firewood, and even the patterns of wildlife outside. She learned to move quietly in the morning, not to startle the deer that sometimes wandered near the cabin, and she discovered how to listen to the forest, reading signs of nature that she had never noticed before. Each new skill, no matter how small, made her feel capable and alive. Thomas entered the room carrying a small basket of freshly gathered kindling. He smiled gently when he saw Anna awake. "Good morning," he said. "Did you sleep well?" Anna nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Yes," she replied softly. "For the first time in a long time, I really did." Thomas set the basket down and poured them both a cup of tea. The warmth of the cup in Anna's hands reminded her again of how different her life had become. She had escaped fear, pain, and danger, and now, even though the world outside was still cold and harsh, she had warmth, safety, and someone who cared for her. After breakfast, Thomas suggested they take a walk in the forest. Anna hesitated at first. The thought of venturing into the snow-covered woods was intimidating. But Thomas was calm and reassuring, walking slowly beside her and pointing out signs of life along the path. A bird perched on a branch, fresh tracks in the snow, the delicate pattern of ice crystals on a fallen log. The forest no longer felt threatening. Instead, it began to feel like a place of learning and quiet beauty, a world where she could regain her strength and confidence. They walked for hours, and Thomas taught her how to move silently through the trees, how to find small food sources like berries and edible plants, and how to identify different types of animal tracks. Anna listened carefully, absorbing every lesson. With each new skill, she felt a growing sense of independence. For so long, her life had been about survival, escaping danger, hiding, and running. Now, she was learning to live. When they returned to the cabin, Thomas suggested she help prepare the evening meal. Anna was hesitant at first, unsure of her skills in cooking, but Thomas guided her patiently. She learned how to chop vegetables carefully, measure ingredients, and cook over the stove without burning the food. Each small success made her feel proud, and she began to enjoy the sense of accomplishment that came with creating something with her own hands. As the days passed, Anna began to notice changes within herself. She laughed more easily, smiled without forcing it, and even found moments of joy in the small routines of the cabin. She sang softly while washing dishes, hummed while chopping firewood, and sometimes simply sat by the window, watching the snow fall and feeling content. These simple pleasures had been foreign to her for so long, yet now they filled her with a sense of life she had almost forgotten. Thomas, too, began to notice the changes. He had not expected such a dramatic transformation, but he was careful not to comment too much. Instead, he offered gentle encouragement when needed, a guiding hand rather than strict instruction. Anna appreciated this approach. She felt trusted, respected, and allowed to grow at her own pace. It was a new experience, and it helped her heal in ways she had not anticipated. One afternoon, as Anna was tending to the small garden Thomas had cultivated, she paused to watch a bird pecking at seeds near the edge of the forest. The sight made her heart swell with a strange mixture of peace and gratitude. For so long, she had felt like life was only about survival, about escaping pain and fear. Now, she could pause, observe, and even appreciate the beauty around her. She realized that safety and peace were not just temporary comforts. They were foundations upon which she could build a new life. That evening, after a quiet dinner, Thomas and Anna sat by the fire, drinking tea in companionable silence. Anna felt a sudden urge to speak, to share her thoughts. "Thomas," she began, her voice soft, "I never thought I could feel this safe. I never thought I could feel like myself again." Thomas nodded slowly, his eyes kind. "It takes time," he said gently. "You've been through a lot. Healing doesn't happen all at once, but every day you are stronger, braver, and more capable. You've already come so far." Anna felt a warmth in her chest, a feeling she had not experienced in years. For the first time, she realized that strength was not just about surviving danger. It was also about trusting, learning, and allowing oneself to grow. She leaned back in her chair, taking a deep breath, and let herself feel the weight of that truth. The following days continued in a rhythm of learning, exploration, and quiet reflection. Anna and Thomas would take walks, gather firewood, cook meals, and tend to the cabin. Anna found herself becoming more confident in her movements, more attuned to the world around her, and more comfortable in her own skin. She no longer flinched at sudden noises or shivered at the thought of being alone. She had reclaimed a sense of control over her life, and it felt exhilarating. One morning, while preparing breakfast, Anna accidentally spilled a cup of hot tea. She froze, expecting Thomas to scold her, as she had often been scolded in her past. But Thomas only laughed softly and said, "It's okay, mistakes happen, we clean it up and try again." Anna laughed nervously, the sound feeling strange yet wonderful. she realized that she had not been treated with patience or kindness in a long time. Every day with Thomas reinforced a new understanding that she deserved care, respect, and the chance to make mistakes without fear. As winter continued, Anna's bond with Thomas grew stronger. They spoke more freely about life, dreams, and hopes. Thomas shared stories of his past, his own struggles and triumphs, and Anna listened, finding comfort in the shared experiences of humanity. She began to see that everyone had their own challenges, but what mattered most was the courage to continue, the willingness to help others, and the ability to find light in even the darkest moments. One particularly cold evening, as the snow fell in thick, gentle flakes outside, Anna and Thomas sat near the fire in quiet companionship. Anna held a cup of warm tea, feeling the soothing heat spread through her fingers. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the fear, the pain, and the endless struggle, and she realized something incredible. She had survived, grown, and found a place where she could truly live. Thomas broke the silence gently. "You're not just surviving anymore, Anna, you're living, and that is something very special." Anna looked into his eyes, feeling a deep gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything, for this place, for your patience, for helping me feel like I can be myself again." Thomas nodded. "You don't need to thank me. You did this yourself. You found the courage to keep moving, to keep learning, and to keep trusting. That's your strength." Anna felt a tear roll down her cheek, not of sadness but of relief and newfound hope. For the first time in years, she felt in control of her life, capable of facing whatever came next. She had discovered that healing was not a single moment but a journey, a series of small victories, quiet moments, and patient steps forward. And she was ready to take each step, one at a time. As part 3 came to a close, Anna realized that she was no longer the frightened, battered girl who had crawled through the snow. She was a young woman finding her strength, reclaiming her sense of self, and discovering the beauty of trust and kindness. Each day brought new lessons, new joys, and new confidence. And though the future was still uncertain, Anna knew one thing for certain. She had survived, she had grown, and she had discovered that life could once again be filled with hope, warmth, and possibility. Anna woke to the soft light of morning filtering through the cabin window. The snow outside sparkled in the early sun, and a gentle calm seemed to fill the small room. For the first time in a long while, she did not wake up with fear or anxiety. Instead, she stretched her arms and smiled, feeling the warmth of the blanket around her and the comforting presence of Thomas in the cabin. Her body had grown stronger. The bruises that had once covered her arms and legs were nearly gone, and her muscles were firm from daily chores and activity. The winter air, which had once been a constant threat, no longer frightened her. She had learned to dress warmly, move with care, and take care of herself in ways she had never known. Each morning, she felt a quiet pride in what she had accomplished and a growing confidence in her own strength. After breakfast, Thomas suggested they work on a project together, improving the small cabin garden for the coming spring. Anna's eyes lit up at the idea. Gardening was something she had never done before, but the thought of nurturing life in the middle of winter made her heart feel light. Thomas handed her a small spade and gloves, and together they began clearing the snow from the garden beds. Anna laughed softly when the cold snow clung to her gloves and melted slowly. It was a simple joy, but one that made her feel alive in a way she had almost forgotten. As they worked, Thomas explained how they could plan for the spring season, what seeds to plant, how to rotate the crops, and how to care for each plant. Anna listened attentively, absorbing every detail. The lessons were practical, but they were also life lessons. She realized that taking care of something, nurturing it patiently, and watching it grow gave her a sense of accomplishment and purpose she had never experienced before. After the garden work, Anna helped prepare lunch. She had grown more confident in the kitchen, and enjoyed experimenting with small variations of simple recipes. Thomas encouraged her creativity, and she discovered that cooking could be both practical and satisfying. Each meal she prepared felt like a small victory, a reminder that she could contribute and create beauty in her life, even in the simplest of ways. As the days turned into weeks, Anna began to take on more responsibilities around the cabin. She learned to chop firewood efficiently, to manage the stove and fire safely, and to store provisions for the winter months. Thomas taught her how to mend clothes and repair small items around the cabin. Every skill she mastered was a step toward independence, and she felt proud of the progress she was making. Beyond practical skills, Anna began to grow emotionally as well. The cabin had become a safe space where she could think, reflect, and dream. She often sat by the window for hours, watching the snow fall softly and thinking about the life she wanted to build for herself. Slowly, fear and anxiety were replaced with hope and determination. She realized that while she could not change her past, she could shape her future. One afternoon, Thomas suggested they build a small workshop near the cabin. The idea excited Anna. She loved the thought of having a place to create, to fix things, and to work with her hands. Over the next few days, they gathered materials, sawed wood, hammered nails, and built the foundation together. Anna felt a deep satisfaction with every plank laid, every nail hammered, and every corner measured carefully. The workshop became a symbol of her growing confidence and independence, a tangible sign that she could build a life for herself, piece by piece. During this time, Anna also began to explore the forest more independently. She learned to read animal tracks, find safe paths through the trees, and recognize the signs of changing weather. Each excursion brought a mix of excitement and calm. She no longer feared the forest as she once had. Instead, she felt connected to it, a part of the world rather than just a survivor hiding from it. With each walk, she discovered a little more about herself, her courage, and her ability to face challenges with calm and intelligence. Evenings were quiet and peaceful. Anna and Thomas would sit by the fire, sharing stories of the day, discussing plans for the future, or simply enjoying the warmth and silence together. These moments of calm were as important as any practical skill. They taught Anna that life could be gentle and kind, that companionship could exist without pressure or expectation, and that trust could grow steadily over time. One evening, Anna looked into the fire and reflected on how much had changed. She remembered the day she had crawled through the snow, cold, frightened, and unsure if she would survive. She thought about the pain she had endured, the fear that had dominated her life, and the endless struggle to stay alive. And now, sitting in the cabin with warmth, safety, and a growing sense of self, she realized that she had transformed. She was no longer just surviving, she was thriving. Thomas noticed her quiet reflection and smiled gently. "You've come a long way, Anna," he said. "You've learned, grown, and faced every challenge. You should be proud of yourself." Anna felt a surge of gratitude and confidence. "I am," she whispered. "I've learned that I can take care of myself, that I can face challenges, and that I can create something good in my life." "I never thought I could feel this strong or this alive." Thomas nodded. "Strength comes from patience, courage, and the willingness to keep moving forward. You've done all of that and more." Over the following weeks, Anna began to take more initiative around the cabin. She started planning small improvements, organizing supplies, and even experimenting with new ideas for the garden and workshop. Thomas encouraged her creativity and praised her efforts, but he also let her make mistakes and learn from them. Each success and failure became a lesson, shaping her confidence and sense of independence. Anna also began to think about the future beyond the cabin. For the first time, she imagined a life where she could make choices freely, pursue her dreams, and live without fear. The thought was both exciting and overwhelming, but she welcomed it. She realized that life had possibilities she had never allowed herself to consider before, and that she could shape her own destiny if she continued to trust herself. During this time, the bond between Anna and Thomas grew stronger. Their relationship was built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. Thomas was not a savior, nor was Anna dependent on him in a way that diminished her. Instead, they supported each other, shared experiences, and learned from one another. Their connection became a source of comfort and encouragement, allowing Anna to explore her independence while still feeling supported. One crisp winter morning, Anna stepped outside with a bundle of firewood. The air was cold, but it no longer intimidated her. She felt alert, strong, and capable. She paused for a moment to take in the beauty of the forest. The way the snow sparkled on the branches, the distant sound of birds, and the quiet stillness of the world around her. She felt a sense of belonging she had never known, as if she had finally found her place in the world. As she returned to the cabin, Anna realized that she had changed in ways she had never imagined possible. She had gone from a frightened, battered girl crawling through the snow to a confident, capable young woman who could face challenges with courage and grace. She had learned to care for herself, to nurture life, and to trust in her own strength. The cabin was no longer just a place of safety. It had become a home, a sanctuary, and a foundation for the life she was building. By the end of Part 4, Anna felt a deep sense of transformation. She had reclaimed her independence, strengthened her body and mind, and discovered the power of patience, courage, and trust. She was no longer defined by fear or pain. She was capable, strong, and ready to embrace whatever life had in store. And for the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. The first light of dawn crept softly through the cabin window, painting the wooden walls with a warm, golden glow. Anna woke slowly, feeling the comfort of the blankets and the steady warmth of the fire from the night before. For a moment, she simply lay there, taking in the quiet peace that had become a part of her daily life. The world outside was still blanketed in snow, but the cold no longer terrified her. She had survived the harshest winter of her life, and she had grown stronger because of it. Anna rose carefully, stretching her arms and legs. Her body felt strong and capable, a stark contrast to the fragile, trembling figure she had been months ago. The small aches and stiffness were reminders of her growth, of all the work she had done to regain her strength and independence. She moved through the cabin with ease, tending to small chores she had come to enjoy. The act of caring for the space around her gave her a sense of control and purpose that she had never known before. After a simple breakfast of warm porridge and tea, Anna stepped outside. The snow crunched beneath her boots, and she took a deep breath of the crisp, cold air. The forest around the cabin seemed alive in a gentle, calming way. Birds chirped in the distance, their songs echoing faintly through the trees. Anna felt a sense of connection to the world that was both new and powerful. She realized that she was not just surviving in the wilderness. She was living fully, intentionally, and with awareness. Over the past weeks, Anna had grown more confident in her abilities. She could chop firewood efficiently, manage the stove, cook meals, care for the cabin, and tend to the small garden. Each skill she had mastered was a testament to her perseverance and determination. Even tasks that had once seemed impossible, like trekking through deep snow to gather firewood or preparing a full meal, were now routine, and she felt pride in each accomplishment. Thomas noticed the changes too. He watched as Anna moved through the cabin with confidence, handled responsibilities without hesitation, and carried herself with a quiet dignity that had not been there before. He never commented excessively, but his approval and gentle encouragement were evident in small ways, a nod, a smile, or a quiet word of praise. Anna appreciated his respect and trust. She did not feel patronized or dependent. She felt empowered. One morning, Anna decided to explore further into the forest. She had learned to read the signs of nature, the tracks of animals, the patterns of snow, and the sounds that indicated approaching weather. She walked with awareness, moving carefully but confidently, noticing the beauty of the trees, the sparkle of frost on the branches, and the occasional deer grazing peacefully in the distance. Each step reminded her of how far she had come from the day she had crawled through the snow, weak and frightened, seeking shelter. When she returned to the cabin, Thomas suggested they spend the afternoon working on the cabin's workshop. Anna eagerly agreed. Together, they repaired shelves, organized tools, and added small improvements that made the space more functional and comfortable. Anna felt a sense of accomplishment with each nail hammered and each plank fitted. The workshop, once just a project, had become a symbol of her transformation, a place where she could create, build, and express her independence. Evenings became a time of reflection and gratitude. Anna would sit by the fire, sipping tea, and think about her journey. She remembered the fear, the pain, and the cold that had once dominated her life. But those memories no longer held power over her. Instead, they reminded her of her strength and resilience. She had faced unimaginable challenges and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident than ever before. One night, as the wind whispered through the trees outside, Anna spoke to Thomas in a quiet voice. "I feel different now," she said. "I feel strong, safe, and like I belong somewhere. For the first time, I feel like I can truly live my life." Thomas nodded, a gentle smile on his face. "You've earned it," he replied. "Every day, every choice, every step you've taken has brought you here. You've built this life with your own courage and determination." Anna felt a tear roll down her cheek, not from sadness, but from a deep sense of gratitude and joy. She realized that life could be good, that safety and happiness were possible, and that she deserved both. She was no longer a girl crawling through snow and fear. She was a young woman standing tall, capable, and ready to embrace the future. In the following weeks, Anna began to take more initiative in her life. She started planning small projects around the cabin, improving the garden for spring, adding shelves to the workshop, and organizing supplies to make daily life easier. Each project, no matter how simple, brought a sense of pride and fulfillment. She felt in control of her life for the first time, shaping it according to her own choices and abilities. Anna also found joy in small moments of leisure. She read books that Thomas had collected over the years, experimented with new recipes in the kitchen, and explored the forest with curiosity and confidence. She discovered the simple pleasure of singing softly while working, of watching the snow glisten in the sunlight, and of sharing quiet conversations with Thomas. Each moment reinforced her sense of peace and her ability to enjoy life fully. One crisp morning, Anna and Thomas decided to take a longer walk through the forest, venturing beyond the paths they had explored before. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting patterns of light and shadow on the snow-covered ground. Anna felt a sense of freedom and joy she had never known. With each step, she realized that she could move through the world with confidence and awareness, trusting herself and her instincts. As they walked, Thomas pointed out signs of the changing seasons. The buds of trees preparing for spring, tracks of animals returning from winter hiding, and the soft flow of a stream that had been frozen for months. Anna listened attentively, appreciating the rhythm of nature and feeling connected to the world around her. She understood that life was full of cycles, challenges, and opportunities for growth, and she felt ready to embrace them all. By the end of the day, Anna felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had faced the cold, navigated the forest, and learned from each step of her journey. She realized that she had not only survived hardship, but she had transformed herself into someone capable, resilient, and full of life. The fear and pain that had once defined her existence were now distant memories, replaced by confidence, strength, and hope. Back at the cabin, Anna prepared a warm meal for both of them. She set the table carefully, arranging everything with attention and care. As they ate, they talked about future plans, small dreams of gardening, exploring, and creating projects around the cabin. Anna felt excitement and anticipation, emotions she had not experienced for a long time. She realized that life was no longer about mere survival. It was about choice, growth, and joy. As the fire burned softly in the hearth, Anna looked around the cabin she now called home. The warmth, safety, and care that had nurtured her recovery had become a foundation for a new life. She had found strength, independence, and dignity in ways she had never imagined. For the first time, she truly felt like she could live her life fully, without fear, and with a sense of purpose and confidence. That night, as Anna prepared for bed, she paused to reflect on her journey. She remembered crawling through the snow, cold, beaten, and afraid, and compared it to the warmth, safety, and confidence she felt now. The transformation was profound. She had not only survived her hardships, she had grown beyond them, reclaiming her life and her sense of self. Anna settled under the warm blankets, her heart full of gratitude. She knew that the path ahead would have challenges, but she also knew that she had the strength, courage, and wisdom to face them. For the first time, she felt fully in control of her life. She was no longer defined by fear or pain, but by her resilience, determination, and capacity to create a life of dignity and joy. As she drifted to sleep, Anna realized something remarkable. She had emerged from the darkness of her past into a life of warmth, safety, and opportunity. She had transformed from a frightened, battered girl into a confident, capable young woman. She had learned to trust, to care for herself, and to embrace life fully. And in that moment, she understood what it truly meant to live like a queen, not in wealth or power, but in courage, independence, and the freedom to be herself.